The Jewish story. This week's story from the Holocaust is taken from the book Judaism, Anti-Semitism and Holocaust, Making the Connections, written by David Patterson. The Enlightenment's eclipse of the light. In the scriptures it is written, the commandment is the candle, and the Torah is the light. And the Enlightenment was precisely the eclipse of the light of Torah. When struggling to identify the elements of Western civilization and German culture that contributed to the Holocaust, the last place we look is the German Enlightenment. After all, from that Enlightenment we have principles of democratic government, civil rights, scientific inquiry, organized education, technological advancement, and more. How then could the Enlightenment, a movement that seems to have glorified man and brought about so much that is progressive, have anything at all to do with the Holocaust? Immanuel Kant offers this brief definition of enlightenment. Enlightenment is man's release from his self-incurred tutelage. Tutelage is man's inability to make use of his understanding without direction from another. Self-occurred is this tutelage when its cause lies not in lack of reason, but in lack of resolution and courage. In Kant's statement, we have the notion of courage as a courage to transcend through resolve any law that might be imposed from on high. What is tutelage at its worst from a Kantian standpoint? It is precisely what is most essential to Jewish thought and Jewish identity. It is Torah. Therefore, Fackenheim asserts, if the belief in the creation of the world, the reality of biblical miracles, the valid law based on revelation at Sinai is the foundation of Judaism, then one must say that modern enlightenment has undermined its foundations. And what is the most pressing of the laws revealed at Mount Sinai? It is the prohibition against murder. The eclipse of the light of Torah that characterizes the Enlightenment ultimately leads to the undermining of the prohibition against murder that enters the world through the Jews. The philosophers of the Enlightenment were known to be the champions of human rights and tolerance, but they seldom allowed the Jews and Judaism the same consideration. This attitude was not the result of slipping back into perennial cultural prejudices. No, it was a defining feature of the philosophical outlook of the Enlightenment itself. It was a view that justified and legitimized their philosophical anti-Semitism, because the Jews represented everything about the unenlightened mentality that the Enlightenment opposed. Recall Kant's insistence that the euthanasia of Judaism is the pure moral religion. That the euthanasia of Judaism necessitates the elimination of the God of Abraham and his perennial witnesses, the Jews. In 1834, Heinrich Heine, himself a child of the Enlightenment, wrote, "The German Revolution will not be milder and gentler because it was preceded by Kant's critique, by Fichte's transcendental idealism, and even by the philosophy of nature. These doctrines have developed revolutionary forces that wait only for the day when they can erupt and fill the world with terror and admiration. There will be Kantians forthcoming who will hear nothing of piety in the visible world, and with sword and axe will mercilessly churn the soil of our European life, to exterminate the very last roots of the past. Armed Fichteans will enter the lists, whose fanaticism of will can be curbed neither by fear nor by self-interest. But the most terrible of all would be natural philosophers, who can call up the demoniac energies of ancient Germanic pantheism. A play will be performed in Germany that will make the French Revolution seem like a harmless idyll in comparison." Unfortunately, Heine proved to be a prophet. The Holocaust happened not due to any breaking away from these doctrines of the Enlightenment, as Heine calls them, but in part precisely because the Nazis were so thoroughly versed in the German intellectual and cultural history that emerged from the Enlightenment. Please pass on these words.